book is called Practical Handbook for Overseas Business Expansion. There are two parts in the book. The first part is actually about methodologies. We tell people, and especially entrepreneurs, how to use the right methodology to understand the global market and how to establish their going global strategy. And the second part, we scan actually all the world country markets that are attractive for entrepreneurs, such as ASEAN countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam, and Thailand, but also like Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and African countries, and European countries, and North American countries. We scan all these countries from a different perspective, social, economic, and political, and we want to let our audience, entrepreneurs, to understand the complexity of all this market, and in order to help them to have a better going global strategy, to localize their production and marketing strategy, etc. So this book, why I wrote it, because I think it is important to share our experience, to share what we went through with all the entrepreneurs all over the world in order to join this vivid community of entrepreneurs who try to expand globally.
And I often say you have to understand the Chinese market from 4 dimensions. I use a false Italian word to try to memorize this 4 dimension. It's called Falcondi. Falcondi, why? First, fast. Why am I saying the Chinese market is characterized with fast? Because speed means everything in China. We change all these kind of topics among entrepreneurs, among investors every day, because we live definitely in this simultaneously with Silicon Valley. So in Beijing, what they talked yesterday evening, in Silicon Valley we talk about today. So there's no time difference between Beijing, Shanghai, and America. Second, the consumer, they accept all this kind of speed. So 3 days ago, you are still selling one kind of things based on a large language model. But today, if you sell another thing based on robotics, they accept it. They will not ask you, why are you selling another thing to me? No, for them, if you are speedy, if you are up to date, that is good. In China, compared with here, technology is 100% positive word. Technology means progress. So for Chinese, if that is a technology-driven product, they will just embrace it 100%. They will not question what is behind this, what is the paradigm, what is the surveillance, all these kind of questions. So in China, you don't have this communication actually barrier. But in Europe, if you want to sell them such a thing like a payment application service, it takes ages because everybody wants to know who controls all the data. In China, nobody cares. Second, Falcondi, the second one, large. Chinese market is very large, but not only for its population. I can give you an example. How many have you ever been to China? I want to know, first of all. Well, roughly 50%, right? How many have you been to Tier 2 city in China? I mean, Suzhou, Hangzhou, or somewhere in Gansu, or yeah. So some, not a lot. How many have you been to the Tier 3 cities in China, such as somewhere, okay, in Sichuan or somewhere in somewhere from Sichuan. So China is composed of at least 8 tiers of cities. So Tier 1, we have very large cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Hangzhou, Shenzhen. And Tier 2, we have all the capitals of the province. And Tier 3, we have all the other industrialized cities. And Tier 4, we have some second-class cities of each province. And Tier 3, Tier 7, Tier 8, Tier 9. So each tier, like each different type of cities, you have different types of consumers. For Tier 1 cities, you have a very large, let's say like Berlin-wise or Paris-wise bourgeoisie-like class. So middle class is very large in Tier 1 city. So people in Beijing, Shanghai, if they are middle class, they have basically the similar income as people in Berlin or in Paris or in Amsterdam. But in Tier 2 city, this middle class, of course, is smaller. But it doesn't mean that their living standard is actually worse. They also enjoy their life because actually the life costs much less. So if you try to understand it from a class basis idea, you will say like China is not large by population, but each tier, actually each type of consumer group is also very large. Okay, I found Kundi, fast, large, Hong is competitive. Okay, China is an extremely competitive market. Competitive, I mean really tough. Because in China, you know, cannot really keep your IP as a privilege. You cannot rely on it. In Europe or in America, if you have IP, you can rely on it. You can earn a lot of money on it. In China, if you have an IP, your competitors knows they will have millions of ways to try to circumvent this IP problem and try to sell similar stuff. So you always need to evolve with the market. You cannot have a rest. I mean, based on our experience, if you cannot evolve for 1 month, you will be out of the game. So that's why the Chinese entrepreneurs who stand there for 30 years are extremely tough guys. And they think every day, every minute, every second actually about their business and how to evolve, how to understand actually the consumers better and how to sell their products in a better way. So all the entrepreneurs, you know, all these big bosses, actually they are very anxious all the time. And that is actually the toughness of the Chinese market. So I'm leaving right now, like CET time, right? If I send them a message right now, within 5 minutes, their staff will reply me. But right now it's already 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in China. But that is how they actually work, and that is how drive them actually to be competitive, because time means everything in China. So competitive at the same time, but at the last dimension, Falkundi is diverse. Chinese market is extremely diverse. Diverse meaning there are all kinds of consumers, all type of needs for different products. For example, even for this anti-acne, you know, acne is like when you are getting into puberty, you know, or you are female, during a certain period of the time, you start to get the small things on your face. Even within this small segment of market, there is the market value is more than 10 billion RMB. So it's large. So in China, if you can find a niche market opportunity, you can be very successful if you can always evolve, of course, and if you can always meet the consumer's need.
I thought it was a very interesting talk, a very interesting presentation. The only thing I wanted to say, and didn't quite get the chance to say because there wasn't enough time, but I think one of the things that are different between what she said, what she said about China, and I'm not a China expert at all, is that most, at least Western Europeans, see a company not only as an entity that delivers a service or a product, but they also see that as a social actor. And the other way around, a European company cannot see or act only in a way that sees the market made up of customers, but they always have to act in a way that the people they're dealing with are also citizens, they're human beings, they have an accountability to society. And that's something I think is maybe different between Western Europe and America. And it's also different between Western Europe, maybe Europe at all entirely, and Chinese customers. So a customer in Europe is not only a customer, he's also a citizen. And as such, he has also an expectation towards a company that is not just as a customer.
I think tonight is a very interesting event and a good audience who listened carefully and interact very nicely with me. And I really appreciate. And I also want to thank Frank for organizing this event. And I think this is a great example of how international global community can actually work with each other and listen to each other and try to use the positive energy in order to expand successfully globally in terms of business, in terms of other culture, cooperation as well. Because business is composed of people. Actually, there's no business can be done between people or robotics or between robotics and robotics. So it's always between people, among people. It's for the people, by the people, and with the people. So people is everything. So when we talk about people from different backgrounds, there's always a culture difference, but that doesn't matter. What is really matters is we should try to understand each other and have this framework to work together by understanding and going beyond all these differences and try to find similarities together. Actually, there are much more similar between Chinese and European than you thought. For example, in Germany, people in autumn start to eat a lot of fat because by putting on fat, they will avoid being cold in winter. In China, we do the same. So, surprise, surprise, because human beings, we think at least the same thing actually by nature. So there's not that much difference between us. I think we need to figure out that together, and only by doing things and doing business together can we try to have these opportunities and these situations to build these common similarities.